Good evening, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Joe is gonna be a little late, so I asked Mary Lou to start us off with prayer.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we thank you for bringing us together with such a purpose. When we think now, every time we think things are getting a little better, everything turns right around and gets worse again. Please help us to help change the direction to keep Democrats in office so people are thought about and cared for. We pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Next we have our pledge of allegiance by Dr. Bob Jones.
Everyone, please stand. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you so much. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to our monthly meeting. We have a very special guest tonight, Mr. Derrick Quarles. And we'll get back to him in a little bit. We're gonna start off with our financial report by Mary Lou.
Well, I made the report out and I left it. So, from my mighty mind, I think we're close here. We had, from the last meeting, $52 or $54 worth of donations. For the fish tribe, we got $250. And our net is $2,600 and some dollars that we have, which is again better than we've ever had before. So we're keep going in the right direction, up, up, up.
Oh, good. And secretary's not here, so I have the minutes attached to the agenda, so y'all can just take a few moments to read if you want to. Okay, I'm gonna introduce Mr. Quarles. I heard him speak in Greenwood, and I was very impressed with him, so I went up to him and invited him to our meeting. So I told Bill Kimball Sunday, I said, I got Derrick Quarles coming. He said, you gotta stop stealing my guests. So I said, I only stole 2 of them. A little bit about Derrick. He's the founder and president of the Evolve Group. The Evolve Group is a nonprofit created to increase diversity in tech by providing unrepresented and minority low-income students with hands-on boot camp style training. The instruction includes directions for both technical and non-technical career paths with an average salary starting over $80,000. Evolve provides one-on-one educational support, financial literacy and investment education, and leadership training. By participating in Evolve, students will be able to walk into high-paying careers confidently. There is a champion for racial and economic equity, a respected political and community organizer, and unrelenting advocate for criminal justice reform. He is organized with Black Lives Matter, Dream Defenders, Black Youth Project, and several other social justice groups around the nation. He led the chartering of several chapters of Black Lives Matter, including the Ferguson Black Lives Matter chapter after the death of ATL Mike Brown, who was shot and killed by police in August of 2014. He's a 2014 graduate of Claflin University, earned a degree in Master of Public Administration from Grand Canyon University in 2016, an educator by training. There is a PhD candidate at Jackson State University and has completed all required coursework. He will defend his dissertation in spring 2023. A member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity, Inc., there has held leadership roles within the fraternity and other civic engagement groups. He previously served on the South Carolina Citizen Review Board, where he evaluated the extent to which the state fulfilled its child protection responsibility. In December 2022, he was invited to a holiday party at the White House by President Joe Biden because of his commitment to building back better, a framework coined by President Biden to ensure middle-class Americans have better opportunity to thrive. On Martin Luther King Day in 2023, Derrick was awarded the Dream Keeper Award, presented by the Racial Equity and Economic Mobility Coalition in Greenville. He also received the Changemaker Award, presented by Multiplying Good, a national nonprofit focused on elevating public service to empower individuals. He is the Evolve Group presenter and a frequent commentator in the press. Did I say the TEDx?
TEDx.
Right, TEDx. Okay, presenter and a frequent commentator in the press. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Mr. Derrick Quarles of Greenville, South Carolina. Give him a hand.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Derrick Quarles. I'm gonna speak from my phone, so I have a little.
Yeah, they're fine.
Yeah, because I'll ramble if I don't have my notes. But I'm Derrick Quarles. I'm from Greenville. And thank you, Ms. Brenda, for the invitation to come and speak. As she mentioned, we met a few months ago in Greenville. And I'm so delighted to be here with you all this evening. I want to say thank you also to y'all for being here. You could have been anywhere tonight. It's a lovely evening outside. You could have been on the porch drinking a beverage, but you all are here because you care about the residents of Abbeville County, and so thank you all for being here. My name is Derrick Quarles, and I'm an advocate and an activist and an educator, and a former candidate for the South Carolina House of Representatives. If I may just for a moment talk about some of the work that I've been involved in, I believe it will better help you understand and appreciate this journey that I'm on as an activist, that we all are on as activists and advocates. I'm a PhD candidate and will walk across the stage as Dr. Quarles on December 8th this year.
Wow.
My PhD is in urban higher education, which covers a myriad of areas of study to include K-12 education, higher education, and beyond. As I shared a moment ago, I share this only because I want you to know why I'm such a champion for quality public education. I mentioned that I ran for state representative in Greenville, and for those of you who don't know what a state rep is, although Greenville would have elected me, I would have represented the entire state, especially you all, because I think we all have very similar interests. Unfortunately, I did not have the numbers. I fell short by 28 votes on election day. So I went into a runoff. There were 7 people in the race starting out. I went into a runoff with myself and one other person, and on election night, I didn't have the numbers to be successful. And I share that because, and I'll just tell you why, in my opinion, why I think I didn't win. So you can Google me and you'll see all the stories, but when I was 16 years old, I'm 36, that was 20 years ago, I stole a car and went to jail as a juvenile. On the night of the runoff, I was contacted by the press at about 11 o'clock in the evening by the press saying, you have a pending charge in Greenville County, you have any comment on it? And I was confused. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, because I didn't have the pending charge. And so the next day I found out that they were talking about when I was 16 years old, a charge that I did when I was a juvenile, that I did my time for. And so the other candidates, they brought it up and made the media think that it was like a pending charge. And the media didn't do their due diligence, they just ran with it, and it was on Greenville News like every single day for 2 weeks. So during the runoff period, for the 2 weeks that I was in the runoff, every single day, all day long, on the news, I was like breaking news. I was like the top person on the news. And so that had a lot to do with why I wasn't successful. I was sued also 3 times in those 2 weeks. I was sued by the Democratic Party. Well, I'm sorry, I was sued by candidates who ran as a Democrat because they were challenging my eligibility as a candidate. And so I had to go to Columbia, to law school, for the Democratic Party to say, yay, I can be on the ballot, or no, I can't be on the ballot. So after that, I was successful. I won that case. Then I was sued in General Sessions Court in Greenville by one of the former candidates, and that judge also said that I was eligible to run. And I was sued again because it wasn't good enough for a judge to tell them that I was eligible. And so, but ultimately, I was on the day before the election. I was deemed eligible like by all the courts, and by that time, I had no energy to like knock on doors because I was concerned about like, if that was gonna be support, I had to hire attorneys from Atlanta, two attorneys from Atlanta, because what I found out is we have a lot of attorneys in South Carolina, but not many of them know about election law. And so I called people in Columbia, I called people in Charleston, Greenville. I could not find an attorney in South Carolina who knew enough about election law that would represent me. And so I got some attorneys out of Atlanta, and they were phenomenal, and they helped me win every single case I had. Also in my race, I had a full team of 9 people. We were diverse in age, race, religion, sexual orientation, education. And I mention that because that's important as an elected official, that you have folks around you who aren't like you, who don't look like you, who will tell you what's happening in their communities. And so I was running my campaign as I would have as a state representative. I also raised the most money out of all the candidates. In fact, I raised more money than all of them combined, all the other 6 candidates combined. And it was because people in Greenville County, they believed in me. They knew that I was the person for the job. But when they saw the news saying that I wasn't eligible, it caused them not to come back out on the runoff. And you know, during the runoff, people really don't come back out anyways. And so but I'm still doing this work because I care about you all, I care about my family. I have 2 little girls, 1 and 3, and I want them to have a successful future, to have the best that they can have. And so that's why I'm still doing this work. But my campaign, again, we run a campaign with integrity. Even when other campaigns were slinging mud, Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high, and we really understood what she meant by that, and we went high every single time they went low. Let's see. Let's go this. Okay, so I'll just talk now from. And so, again, I'm doing this work because I care about the folks in South Carolina. I care about the issues that you all care about, expanding healthcare in South Carolina. We have close to 500,000 people that are uninsured, who don't have access to healthcare because our governor would rather play politics rather than accept the money from the federal government. I believe that if Donald Trump's still president, they would have a problem with accepting Medicaid if Donald Trump were to accept Medicaid, because that's just how they play. But people are literally dying. I had a guy living in Greenville, his mom, and they were white, his mom went to the hospital one night around 1 o'clock in the morning. She had a severe headache. Went to the doctor at the hospital in Greenville, and she was in the back with the doctor, and the receptionist came in and asked her if she had health insurance. She said no. The doctor gave her a Tylenol, sent her home, and she died that night from an aneurysm because she didn't have health insurance. And so that's just one of the many stories of folks in South Carolina who don't have access to health insurance. And that's what happens. They deny you, they turn you away, and they go on to the next person. And so I'm still advocating for expanding Medicaid. I'm in DC, I work in DC, so I'm in DC all the time talking to our federal legislators. I'm talking all the time to the Republicans and Democrats, because I understand that you have to work across the aisle to get things done. Also, again, education is super important to me. I'm an educator by trade. I've worked at 3 colleges around the country. And as an educator, although not working in the K-12 setting, I value education because I understand what education can do for a person. Not saying that if you're not educated that you can't come to the world, because you can. We've seen that happen. But I've seen what an education can do for a person. It lifted me out of where I was. Again, at 16 I was still in Congress, right? Not because I had to, because I just wanted to. I wanted to see what it felt like to break the law, right? And because I've been on both sides of that of the spectrum, I'm also a champion for criminal justice reform, right? Not like the textbook criminal justice that they talk about on the TV, where nothing's really changing, but real criminal justice reform where people are given opportunities to be rehabilitated and come back into society and really be functioning members of society. And so I'm working right now with the Department of Probation and Parole, with folks who are on probation and parole, helping them to learn trades, to learn skills, so that when they are released from probation and parole, they can become employable. We've got BMW and a few other corporations in Greenville, Michelin, to agree to hire folks with records, so that they can have an opportunity to stay out of jail and be again productive members of society. And we're working with the Chamber of Commerce to expand that work, to expand with folks, a number of corporations and businesses in Greenville who will accept people with criminal records. I think BMW and Michelin, I mentioned those two, I think they've been doing it for about 3 years now, and they They literally have been champions for allowing folks with records to come in and work. And that keeps people out of jail, because if you can't provide for your family, you go back to doing what you know best, and that's breaking the law. And so, champion for criminal justice reform, also a champion for voter education. I work for an organization in DC called State Voices, and we work all around the country educating folks on civic engagement, on civic responsibility, what it means to be an active voter, what it means to check your registration to make sure that you're still an active that you're still actively registered on the ballot. Several states will remove you from the ballot if you miss one election. Others will remove you if you miss 2 elections, and some will remove you even if you vote. They just remove you because they want it's suppression, basically. And so I'm going to Ohio tomorrow. That's a special election in Ohio. It's a ballot initiative where Ohio is trying to lessen or increase the number of folks needed to change the Constitution in Ohio. So right now it's at 50% that they require, or majority rather. They're trying to raise that to 60%, and that's so that they can basically like change the Constitution and make it more favorable to the Republicans in Ohio, because they actually, I mean, of course they're in the majority in the legislature, but they can't really change the Constitution right now because they don't have the numbers they need to change the Constitution. And so when you see that happening in states like Ohio, battleground states, you know it's going to happen in South Carolina, it's going to happen in Florida, and all the other states are going to try to follow suit. And so we've got to stop it in Ohio before it spreads like a wildfire. And so I'll be there for a couple of days, educating folks and getting folks excited about that. But here at home, again, I do this because I really truly care about the folks in South Carolina. I care about us moving forward. We're number 46 out of 50 in education in the country, which is horrible. And you know, you got Republicans talking about, you know, that they want corporations to come to South Carolina. Well, I can tell you as an educator who worked in higher ed in Texas, like, corporations did not want to come to Texas because Texas also is falling behind. And we go up with corporations and say, hey, come to Texas. Hey, we got students here that are ready to get employed. And they were like, no, because the scores are not where we need them to be. And the same thing is in South Carolina. The reason why corporations did not come here is because they're looking for folks who have the skill set, who have the aptitude, who have the education. And if our numbers stay like they are, it's going to be even harder and harder for jobs and corporations and industry to come to South Carolina and stay here. We're fortunate that Google is considering coming to South Carolina. They're going to build, well, hopefully they're going to build a small hub in South Carolina to do tech. We know that tech is like one of the nation's leading industries right now. And tech is something that you can do without going to college. It's something that you can learn in 12 weeks. That's something I also help young people with, is going in the tech industry. You can learn tech in 12 weeks and 12 weeks graduate with a certificate and make $80,000 a year as an 18, 19-year-old person, which is, I think is phenomenal. And so we can continue to encourage folks to get into tech who don't want to go to college or start a business, but anything other than like crazy stuff that will get you locked up. So I really don't want to like ramble too much more. Any questions, any comments, concerns about what's happening here in Abbeville? My cousin is Delano Freeman. He was the former mayor. I think some of y'all, I don't know if y'all look like him or not, but he's my cousin. So my family's from McCormick area originally, where my grandparents are. And so I have deep roots to the Abbeville, McCormick region. So, questions?
There's so much going on that it seems it's like a scatter. And I don't think that reaches people because they don't hear it. They gotta hear it again,
Sure.
again, and again. So how do you figure out what you're gonna push?
So as an educator, I study, right? So I listen to people, I listen to what they're saying, but I also listen to what they're not saying, right? A lot of times people, they don't know what to say. All they know to say is what they heard, what they think they know. And so just listening to what people are saying, I think has been most helpful to me. Also studying, like people studying the area, studying what's happening in specific areas. I'll give you an example of that. In Greenville, where I live, there was a particular neighborhood in Greenville that had a high crime. Police they didn't want to go out to the neighborhood because of the level of crime. They would call the police and they just wouldn't show up, right? And it could be like somebody like in tab, and the paramedics would come out without the police, and so people literally have to drive to the hospital. And so what I did was, I got with the Department of Community Management, got corporate to come down with the Health Center, got corporate to come in, fly from Texas, and we met with the sheriff, the chief of police, and the command staff, and we started having dialogue about like what the issues were and why police were afraid to come to the state. And so from that, we learned that that community was like dilapidated. The housing was like beyond or below like what anybody should live in. We went into some of those units. I mean, the walls were like this. They were like molded. The cabinets were black and brown. It was just like deplorable. Nobody should live like that. And so a lot of those folks were like, they didn't have anything to look forward to. So they did what they did. Like they were doing criminal activity. And so we were able to get the management company or the corporate office to offer GED services to the parents, because a lot of parents there were uneducated. We got them to agree to give scholarships to students who were going to college. And so we built like relationships with law enforcement, which I think is important. And we helped to move that community forward. And now the entire community has been renovated. From every single unit has been renovated. And so that's just a small example of like, when I say not, listen to what people are not saying. Nobody was saying like what the issues were. They were saying, nobody was saying how they can improve. They were saying what the issues were, not like how we can come together. And so that's one thing.
You stated, sir, that in Ohio, that they had about 50% of the people as for voters, so that they could vote the Constitution once they got 100%. They was gonna change the state of Ohio's Constitution. Is that what you're saying?
Right. So they want to change. They want to lift the number to 60% so that they can change the Constitution.
If it's 60%, they can change it.
Right. That's what's on the ballot now.
Wow.
So they're proposing that it be increased to 60%. And then they're also proposing that instead of having 40, so it's 88 counties in Ohio. So 44 counties is all that's needed to pass the ballot initiative. They want to increase that to 88. So every single county has to agree. And that's just like, that's insane. And again, if it happens in Ohio, it can happen anywhere else.
Yep, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Wow.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
When you talk about criminal justice reform,
So that people can come back home, especially the nonviolent offenders. Come back home and like be with their families and get back to work. Yeah. So one of the things also that we've done in Greenville, I think it's been around the state now, is that in Greenville we have what we call Day of Amnesty, where individuals who are on probation, parole, who have warrants, they can come and turn themselves in to a judge. It's not in the courthouse. It's like it may be at a church or maybe a community center, but it's not in the courthouse. It's somewhere in the community that's considered safe. They come and turn themselves in before the judge, and the judge gives them a paper saying, hey, come to court on this day. We're gonna release you from your warrant. You go back and go get a job, go to school, come back, let us know what you're doing, and we'll let you out of probation parole. And so that too has been helpful to folks. There was one guy I met who was from a small town called Marietta, South Carolina, was in Travelers Rest. And he'd been running from the police for 4 years. And he came that day not knowing he was going to jail or not. He thought it was a trick, and I would have too, but he came and he got released from that warrant that day. And he cried like a baby. Talked about how he was addicted to methamphetamines, how he was living in the woods, how he was going from house to house, how he hadn't seen his kids in 4 years because he couldn't go home because of the warrant. And so for him, that was like a breath of fresh air. It was like he got his life back. And so I think if we, and that's, I mean, criminal justice reform, is giving people another chance to prove themselves to be worthy.
somebody needs to broadcast that there's nothing romantic about running from the law, living in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
Like Eric Robert Rudolph.
Right.
Yeah, and he was living out of a dumpster. People were saying, "Oh, he's a survivalist." But he wasn't, you know. Yeah. I hope that young man gets.
He's doing well now. He actually is at Greenville Tech in his last semester. He's doing welding. So yeah, he got his life back.
You mentioned that did you state that you worked with probation and parole?
Yeah, so I don't work for them, I'm working with them. So we started a program where we're helping folks who are about to be released from probation and parole to get into the tech industry.
Okay. I worked for Voc Rehab for 33 years.
Okay.
And we had a relationship with probation and parole where we would also do something similar with the clients, trying to get them back into the world of work, and, you know, with minimal issues there, and they came through our workshop, the adjustment area, and things of that nature, and I had some things that were, the employees at Highland, we had tax credits for them, so they were able to hire a lot more of the clients, and some get pretty good.
Yeah, good stuff, yeah. And Voc Rehab is also another good one. If you have great people working in those places, that's also another great opportunity, another great resource for folks who are drug addicted, alcohol addicted, who want to like do better.
Well, rehab in South Carolina used to be, I don't know, I've been retired 7 years, the #1 rehabilitation in the nation. And Greenwood was probably #1 in the state for several years.
Oh, wow. Were you in Greenwood working?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I covered Abbeville, McCormick, and little counties though. I was a field counselor, so I covered all the areas that we worked in.
Thank you for your service, that was important. Anyone else? What are the issues in Abbeville? Like, what are some of the concerns? Guns? Yeah.
Too many guns.
Yeah. Are any shootings or just like?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this, I do a summer food program, I did a summer food program. And at one of our sites, there was a shooting of a grandmother on a Saturday night.
Wow.
And of course, we were gonna feed on Monday morning. And I really thought about canceling it. And I went over Monday morning, and there was my supervisor sitting at the door, ready to greet the kids as they came. I'm just, yeah, I mean, it floored me. I don't know that I could have done that.
Yeah.
And I asked her later, I commended her, and then I asked her later, and she says, it doesn't faze them. And I think that is absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
It's just part of life. That's very wrong.
That's why it's so important. I mean, well, there are a lot of reasons as to why kids are known to like gun violence. They see it on TV,
Yeah.
social media, everywhere they look is gun violence. Video games, and it's glorified, and they're numb to it. And I think when they see people getting arrested and they come back home after serving time for a gun charge, it's like, oh, they came back home so I can do the same thing. That's like, it's really tough to like talk about gun violence. Yeah, because I mean, like, it affects so many people. And I don't know if I could have done that the next day, like that place feeding kids or feeding people. But we can't give up though.
No.
We can't give up. And I don't know what the answer is. I've been trying to figure it out. I just think that, and I would say parents should do a better job, but a lot of parents, they're great parents. Kids they go to school, they get around the wrong people, and they start making wrong decisions. And so some of the blame could go back on the parents, but I think kids also have to take responsibility, especially when they get 13, 14, 15. They know what they're doing at that point. And if you're old enough to carry a gun, you should be old enough to like accept what the consequences are that come with it. You can't shoot a person and expect them to live. They may or may not live. And if they don't live, I mean, you gotta live with that person like they took a life. I don't know like what the answer is to like how we solve gun violence. I don't, because if you over police the people, then it's gonna be an issue with police like harassing people and targeting people. If you don't patrol, then it's like people are just breaking the law. So it's like how do you do it, right? But I think a start would be like having the police to have intentional conversations about like how we address gun violence and you know, getting guns off the streets. I know in Greenville about 10 years ago, there was this white van that was like parked in this neighborhood mysteriously and was full of guns. And kids went and got all the guns. I mean, maybe over 100 guns in that van. And somebody intentionally put it was a stolen van. All the weapons were stolen. And these were like AK-47s, these were pistols, I mean, all kinds of guns. And they put it like in the center of a black community and all those guns were taken out of that car. And it was just like, who did this somehow, right? And so that also is a problem, that we have people that are actually coming to our community, putting guns on the streets, literally giving guns to these kids. We also have adults who are, 25, 30-year-old adults who are like recruiting kids at 13 and 14 years old, not to be in a gang, but to be like their understudies. And they tell them, I'll be loyal to you, I'll support you, I'll give you what you need, I'll give you money. And it's $10 here, $15 there. But these kids are like going and breaking in cars, they're breaking in houses, they're doing all of this criminal activity for a person. And they get caught and they do the time because the adult person is at home and they can't link that person to them. So we see that all the time too. So how do we stop that? Right?
And the kids, they get in there, it's sort of like a gang, it's sort of not like a gang,
Right.
but they call it blood in and blood out. And the only way you can get out is you die.
Right. Right.
So that's the blood in, and you gotta do things like that. And it's adults who's preying on kids. And that's a big issue for me because the ones that need to be called are sitting with at home when all these incidents happen.
And it's not just kids, right? It's also like the families are impacted, because if I have a son that's in a gang and I don't know about it, and they come looking for him and they come to my house, and I could be shot, I could be hurt. And so, and I think kids don't think about that kind of stuff. Like they put their families and their children, their siblings in danger. So, but again, I think the police should be like having conversations with the community, with the schools about like how we keep guns out of schools. That's also a huge issue, is that guns are in schools, we have knives in schools, all types of weapons. But I think if people are being proactive as opposed to being reactive, I think that would also help to address some of those issues. I don't know what the police are doing in Abbeville, but that's that.
The police that I've talked to have been really forthcoming, and they tried really, really hard. Plus, I took concealed weapons course back in 2020 because I was bored with it. It was COVID, I didn't have anything else. But I was really impressed with the teacher saying, we need this kind of course. We need training. It doesn't need to be like anything goes.
Right.
You carry your gun anywhere you want to.
Right.
That's where it gets stolen. People carry them around in cars. You leave in the car, you go to the theater, can't take it in, so it gets left in the car. That's where it gets stolen. It's so easy. Because people, they always put them in the glove box or right down here between the seats. It's just, what is it, gone in 20 seconds? Yeah.
Other concerns? I know gun violence is a concern. What else is happening? Meth.
Meth is huge, yeah. And the sheriff's department works really hard to try to control it. But these people, and they're mostly, we have a lot of people that are not from our county that have come in here to rural America. And they're meth heads, and they go in homes, they destroy them, and then they're turned right back out on the street. And you have to have some type of a process in law enforcement where these people have to serve time. And you can't say, oh, well, gee, once you're addicted, you can go through a program for 2 months or 6 months. They need to go and they need to find some type of a trade. And when they go to their halfway house, when they get out, they can't go back and get with these people so they can be productive citizens. We have a huge problem with that in our community.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons why they come on so much is because like people are pushing to decriminalize drug offenses. Now,
You wouldn't push for that if you saw somebody's home that they.
Oh no, I see it all the time.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I mean like the criminal aspect of it, like the actual like destroying property, that's a whole other issue. But I mean like the drug part specifically, like that should be like a rehab or a more intense program.
But how many times do you send them to drug rehab?
You say what now?
But it has to be like a real program. Like not saying a drug rehab isn't real, but I mean like a program that's like that they stay there for months until they are really rehabilitated, to where they're really.
See, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Stay there.
Yeah,
Stay there
absolutely.
till you're.
Yeah.
We have a 30-day process, but prior to that, you have to go and be clean for 3 days prior to going to our treatment facility. And we used to have one in Greenville called Homes, but it burned down, so they didn't rebuild it. So the only one now that we have that's our own is in Florence called Palmetto Center. And you go there for 30 days, and 9 times out of 10, the ones that I sent did pretty good, but then we had some that fell by the wayside, because if you go there and you say you're clean, and when you get down there and they do a test on you, and you got it in your system, they send you back the same day. It used to be Greyhound, since Greyhound don't run no more, you have to find a way to get home.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
But I mean, the state's not willing to pay for those kind of programs. They don't.
But they should.
I agree. I mean,
With
they
that-
so I mean, they should pay for those kind of programs.
I totally agree with that, and they should, but I don't know whether there's an incentive for the state to do that. Is it gonna benefit the state in a sense? But they should pay for some of those programs, because, we had a policeman to come to our office one year, and he was talking about the gang violence and all of this and that, and the drugs. He said that they got to a house about, 10 o'clock that morning, and a guy about your size had just got through doing meth, and the guy was about Cornell's size that was policeman, and he said that that guy almost killed him. He said when you grab somebody just getting off meth, got through doing meth, it took 3 tasing and 3 beans to stop him.
That's dangerous.
Rose, you had a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, like they were saying, a lot of these good programs for children, so that, the leaders can teach the children, the state stop funding them. So children are gonna find some development to get into.
Absolutely.
If they didn't, I mean, the programs that I have seen, it was helping the children. And all of a sudden the funds get cut.
Well,
That's because it doesn't benefit the Republicans, and I'll just,
Right.
and
You're
probably
right.
white folks. It doesn't benefit them, and so why would they waste money on a program that's not benefiting their community? So we know politics is like it's also like a race game, right? It's about the have and the have nots, who got the money, who don't have money. I learned in my PhD course that community centers were started during slavery for families, for kids, so they could have somewhere to go to school because their parents were working for their masters, right? And so even community centers are like being ripped out of communities. They're defunding community centers, and kids have nowhere to go. And so they turn to the streets and they started committing criminal activity. And so we're saying like we want our kids to like be productive and like have something to do, but we're not giving them anything to do, except for like, again, like putting guns literally in the neighborhoods. And so that's why we've got to be talking to legislators, Republican and Democrat, like calling them, like all the time. Like, I feel this way about this issue. I feel this way. Like, they need to know your name. They need to know that when you call them, that you mean business. I called a councilman in Greenville, he's a Republican. He has a PhD and a JD, like super brilliant guy, right? And book-wise, but common sense, he lacks it, right? Because he doesn't understand like that we need affordable housing, and that's a huge issue. I don't know if it's an issue here in Abbeville, but affordable housing is an issue in Greenville. It's an issue almost everywhere with gentrification happening.
Right.
So 10 years ago in Greenville, you can go downtown and not see anything. You go down there now and you see condominiums that start at $200,000. They start at $200,000, and they're all filled, right? And it's from people that moved from California, that moved from New York, and they pay cash for these places. And so the price keeps going up and up and up because people are moving there paying cash. And they're not worried about the people that are from here because they're like, it's not for you, it's for the people that are coming here. And so we also have to be champions and talk about affordable housing. And so I call this guy all the time. I text him, I call him, because I want him to know that as an elected official on county council who has a vote on the budget, we need more money in the budget for affordable housing. And so after talking to him for about a year and like listening to his BS, he finally agreed about 2 weeks ago to put money in the budget for affordable housing. So they put $7 million in the budget for affordable housing, which is a small number, but it's more than what they've done in the past. And so, but I mean, like, don't be afraid to call Republicans. Like, call them and just talk to them. Some may not get what you have to say, but if you keep calling, because I work in the state house. I work for a legislator, and I know that if you call them enough, they'll know your name. They'll know that when you call them, that they gotta listen to you or run against you.
That's it, run against them.
Yeah, just run against them.
And when they say affordable housing, you say affordable for who? Because
Right.
I serve on the Habitat Board, and they were wanting to do something similar here in Greenwood. And, we were saying affordable houses for food.
Right.
And it was something very similar to people that would be working out of the area and coming here to live.
Right.
And, the people that needed those buildings, they could not afford it, so we, was in a dilemma with that, with our, board.
Yeah, I say affordable, but I really mean income-based, right? So
That's, you're
yeah,
right.
income-based housing is what we should be all like pushing for, because you may not make what I make, so I can't afford what you can afford.
Right.
And so affordable is like this big blanket, like, term that can mean anything, right?
Income base is the word, that's what they
Income-based,
use,
yeah.
correct.
But I do plan on running again for office next year. Although y'all can't vote for me, I
Good.
hope that you'll support me however you can.
Oh,
Make
yes.
phone calls, or you wanna come to Greenville, knock on doors with me? I'd love to have you in Greenville, knocking on doors. I'm really excited about, I feel really good about this time, because when I went to court last time, the judge told me if those people brought up my charges again, I could sue them, right, for defamation. And so he told them literally not to come to this courtroom again with that crap, because it was BS. And this guy was a Republican, but the judge was. But he was also a no-nonsense person who understood like that, that people have a right to run if they're qualified. So I do plan on running again next year, and I do plan on being successful. And I plan on being the legislator so that we can have representation, more representation. Because even though we have Democrats in the State House, again, I worked there for 4 years, I saw Democrats all the time, like, voting Republicans, right? Not really caring about the people who put them in office. And so you also gotta make sure you hold people accountable. And look at that voting record, look at how they're voting, because
All right.
they may run as a Democrat, but are they really a Democrat? Look at that voting record. And if they're not, run against them, find somebody to run against them.
Are you running for the House?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
Which area, is it in our area or in the Greenville area?
Second.
Is it in the Abbeville area?
Oh, it's in Greenville.
Okay.
Yeah, Greenville.
Greenville City or county or what?
Greenville, so it's Greenville City, Simpsonville, Malden, Piedmont, that area, the south part of Greenville.
Yeah, we could help, we could do, calls, cause I know Dr. Bob and I, we did calls for a candidate in Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did, calls, and,
I'll definitely reach out.
we'll come canvass, I love canvassing.
Yeah. So there's a special election going on in Charleston. Deion Tedder is running, well, several people running. So, Marlon Gibson resigned from the Senate. He's a senator
Oh,
in Charleston.
good.
Yeah, he resigned. So there's a special election coming up, and so there are several folks that are running for the seat. Deion Tedder is a friend of mine who is running, he's a state rep now in Charleston. So y'all should like look him up, Google Deion Tedder, and reach out, and he needs help making phone calls too.
Say his name again.
Deion Tedder, T-E-D-D-E-R.
D.E. what? And you got that mayor's race in
T-E-D-D-E-R.
Greenville with Michelle Shane too,
Yes, we do.
which
Yeah.
is, she's gonna be huge, and she's got a shot.
Yeah.
She's got a little bit of a shot.
So the city of Greenville is now Democratic. We have 4 Democrats on council and 3 Republicans.
And in
so-
Charleston, you got Clay Middleton,
Running for mayor. Yeah.
and I can't, believe what has happened there, but he's got a good shot too.
So
And
you-
maybe we can make an impact in communities, like with housing, that
Oh,
we're
absolutely.
talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. Michelle Shane is running on affordable housing. She has been on city council for about 10 years and understands the plight of poor and low-income people in Greenville. And I always tell people, like, just because it's local, a mayor's race can impact what happens in Abbeville, can impact what happens in Charleston. Because those folks, they become legislators, and people listen to them. They have a voice, they have a platform. And so we gotta be engaged in making sure that we are voting, participating, and helping out wherever we can.
I was glad to see the Abbeville mayor in Juneteenth, and a city council member, at least one, maybe more.
Yes, with, 3 came,
3 came.
and the, city clerk, and, we had there was some parade, a lot of the city and some counties, and, Sheila did a good job on the parade, that Juneteenth, yeah, yep,
Gotta be accountable, you gotta be in the community. You gotta
Right.
be elected. You gotta
yeah,
be-
okay,
Any other questions before I?
any other questions?
Thank y'all so much for allowing me to come and speak and share with y'all. I look forward to
Yeah.
coming back soon.